Okay, Amanda, it's all yours.
No, I didn't. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the, what do we call it? The story presentation. We had a call for entry called Story. That was kind of a combo of our ideas, but explain that.
Well, I have an alter ego named Franklin, and he likes to write stories. And so we figured that it would be interesting to have folks send in or have a call for entry. And the folks that got chosen, I would write a little story about their image. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for trusting me to do this and honoring me to do this. I hope you're not terribly disappointed or appalled or one or the other.
Or shocked. Or,
yeah. Franklin, the way Franklin came about was I actually used to participate on a political blog website, and I got kicked off. So the next day I went back as Franklin Cincinnatus. That's the genesis of the name. But where the stories actually came from is I really like the work of Eduardo Galeano. I don't know if many of y'all are familiar with him. He's the Uruguayan author, and he wrote these little historical snippets, and they were just usually 2 or 3 paragraph, or maybe even 1 paragraph, little historical vignettes. And then Richard Brautigan is another one of my favorite writers, and he wrote these very short little vignette type stories. And then Edwin Lee Masters wrote a book called the Spoon River Anthology, and in that book he went to the graveyard, or I don't know if he actually went to a graveyard. He may have created the whole concept, but in theory he went to a graveyard. And he just wrote stories about the people, the names of the people that were on the gravestones. And there were just these little short vignettes. So I keep getting asked about a biography of Franklin. So this is the only one I found. And I sent this to somebody a while back, and it says, I keep getting asked what I know about Franklin Cincinnatus. This is the best info I've found. It was in the back of a copy of the Paris Review that was on the failing coffee table in the office where I get my oil changed. Franklin was born fully formed, both physically and cognitively. This frightened everyone in town, especially his parents. They dropped him off at the local fire station sometime around 3 or 3:30 a.m. the morning they left town, never to return, leaving no forwarding address. The very liberal local librarian rode her bicycle to the fire station, loaded the unusual child into the basket on the handlebars, and returned smiling rapidly back to the library. She named him Franklin Cincinnatus after her favorite men, Franklin Delano Roosevelt and Lucius Quinticus Cincinnatus. He read most of In Watermelon Sugar that first night. It is conjectured that he lives in a little stone house somewhere in central Texas with 3 cats, some kind of a bird, a very happy woman, and a pistol that he accidentally dropped in the toilet when he was drunk one Easter. The pistol has since rusted useless. It sits next to a framed photograph of the librarian.
So thank you, Franklin.
You're welcome. Take it away.
Take it away. Okay, well, you ready to start? Give me that sheet of paper with all my stuff on it. Thank you very much. Okay, so first up, Jeff Loeser. Jeff Loeser lives in Austin, Texas, not too far from us. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Jeff.
Well, I'm originally from New York, and have been photographing probably most of my life, going way, way back. This particular picture, I always have a camera. There's always something to see. There's always a juxtaposition. I took this probably around 2015 or so. And Franklin, the story that appeared just kind of nailed it. And the more I read the story, the more I said, yeah, that's the picture. The picture is titled, What's That Noise? And I think it works well. There's a certain kind of synergy between the picture and the story.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jeff.
And Jeff's going to read his own story, or Franklin's story.
All righty.
Okay.
All right. The Wellborns lost their overnight guest. He'd come to visit. They didn't immediately remember how they knew him. Upon arriving, he brought out a photo album and showed them pictures of them as children playing with him in a used car lot. He said the lot belonged to his stepfather. The Wellborns didn't absolutely recognize themselves in the photos. However, after the guest told them so many interesting things they didn't know about themselves as children, they were convinced. Their guest was a hearty eater. He enjoyed wine and gin. He made a list of items for Mr. Wellborn to buy at the grocery store. He prepared 2 exceptional desserts to go with the prawns and Wagyu ribeyes. He repaired their garbage disposal. It had been out of service for a couple of years. When they bid him good night on the 6th night of the visit, they had no idea that it would be the last time they would see him. The Wellborns weren't aware that he could fly. If they had been, it would have made sense why he requested the room with a balcony and not the interior 3rd bedroom. From The Guest by Franklin Cincinnatus.
That was great.
That was really
Of course,
good.
we just forgot our COVID brain has forgotten something. We were supposed to share the picture, Kevin.
Oh, that's right, we were.
So would you
We're-
put that up
okay.
now?
Yeah, we screwed
Oh,
it.
good. I've been
Yeah, that would
trying
be
to
helpful.
find my
That,
It
copy
would
of
make more sense that
Yeah.
way. Okay.
There we go.
Yay.
Now, wow. Good job, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right.
Who's next?
Well, next we have Andrew Hersey
Oh,
down there on this wonderful balcony. He's also going to read his own story. Tell us about you, Andrew.
I'm a lifelong artist, and I also like to write. And my background, I started out more as a painter, but now I do photography and drawing, and I write a little bit, and I have a very goofy, sort of embarrassing podcast with my girlfriend. But I have always loved the idea of sort of combining words and visual images. And I've always loved you guys' calls for entry just because of that, because like you sort of get a jumping off point of what to think about when you're submitting work, which makes me happy and sort of inspires me. And I love you guys for that. And I also wanted to say, also, like this story like feels like something I would have written if I was a better writer. I absolutely love it.
Well, thank you.
It's a really interesting image. Pull up the image. Kevin.
Well, for some reason, this is not letting me get to the.
Yeah, what happened? I think you can move this.
Can you move this out of the way? Let's
Yeah,
see.
but where's the doodad?
Let's see if we can find it. There it is.
There it is. Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
All right.
There's-
Here we go, Andrew.
So, I mean, we've talked about what are those things. So,
Yeah, what are those?
Heck if I know.
Is that what they are?
This is in an old abandoned Southern States grain silo about 5 or 6 blocks from my house. Yeah, it's over there somewhere. But I don't even know. It's in a strange little room that you can break into, which we did.
Well, man, it's a great shot.
I never noticed the
Wow.
hands there.
Yeah.
She's got too many fingers.
That is something different.
She's very gifted.
Okay.
Take it away.
Okay. Linda placed a bank of Acme anthropodic transmitters just below the windows in her basement. Her father invented the transmitters toward the end of World War II. With the war soon over, they were not needed. He named them after the little beasts that have an exoskeleton: scorpions, crabs, fleas. He attended an evening business school as a young man, taking a professor's marketing suggestion to heart. He named all of his businesses Acme this and Acme that. The transmitters weren't just transmitters to Linda. They were flawless possibility. She imagined them as the inevitable introduction to the ineffable. One day they would crackle and ping, and her father's voice, or the suddenly understandable meowing of her favorite cat, or possibly even the voice of whatever God is, would spring forth from the cobweb-decorated boxes. Once, swimming in a local stream, a boyfriend picked up a deeply black stone from the clear, cool water and claimed the rock could be God. Maybe the transmitters would chatter with the wisdom of that rock. Linda was 4 when her father perfected the transmitter. He would sit her down on the porch in front of one, telling her to wait patiently for magic to happen. Then he would go sit in the old Ford with his own small transmitter and microphone. He would patiently speak into the microphone, telling her fanciful stories. He would affect various characters and voices and read make-believe world news of magic and wonder. She would be completely enraptured, giggling and clapping her hands. The crackle and ping could just barely be heard over the rush of the shower. Nervously, excitedly turning off the water, Linda threw open the shower door. It was unmistakable. The sound was the familiar crackle and ping that introduced all those words of wonder all those years before. She ran, naked, dripping down to the basement, giggling and clapping her hands. That's from Linda and the Acme Anthropodic Transmitters by Franklin Cincinnatus.
All right.
That was great.
Good job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my favorite story of all the ones that I've read anyway.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very cool. Okay. Next we have Sally Chapman, but she's not here. So we will gonna go on and go to Catharine Carter.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I grew up in Chapel Hill and to UNC and have an art degree from there. And then I was a portrait photographer for 35 years. And when I closed the studio, probably had a lot to do with cell phones and other things, making the change happen, whether I wanted to or not. I started working with these sort of narrative images, and I love fairy tales and mythology, and I do a lot of reading of Jungian type things with the subconscious. And so this was sort of on one of my Jungian bents when I did this image.
I love this
Yeah,
image.
it's wonderful.
It also got the director's award, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
thank you.
That's a
great.
beautiful
It's a
piece.
wonderful
Yeah, it's
image.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to let Franklin read his story.
Okay,
You want me to
Franklin.
read it? Okay. If one drives slowly down a gravelly back road on a Georgia morning, the windows down, the amalgamated sense of various wildflowers and awakening soil and pond and wood smoke from chattering stoves, taking away the still present chill, one can forget much, if only for a moment. It must be spring. Charlotte angrily gripped the steering wheel of the Packard, still in her nightdress, her chestnut hair blowing about in the wind from the open window, some clinging to tears zigzagging down her cheeks, pushed by the spring breeze. Suddenly, the right front tire whooshed, then went what-a-lump, 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 coming to a stop. Still in the road, there was no shoulder. Herbs and vines and switchy small trees grew right up to the gravel roadbed. Charlotte sat in the vehicle for a bit, her head against the steering wheel. Exiting the car, she realized she had no shoes, yet the cool gravel felt good against the soles of her feet. Walking to the front of the car to look at the mangled tire, something moving in the road caught her attention. Coming right down the center of the road, slowly towards her, was a large graphite black indigo snake. Charlotte screamed and fell back against the hood of the car. The snake stopped. Charlotte suddenly felt a calmness come over her. She leaned forward. The snake moved a bit closer. She took 2 steps toward the serpent. It inched closer. She slowly walked towards the snake until her shadow covered most of its body. It raised its head and looked into her eyes. The two became as in a state of communion on the gravelly road for a time. Her thoughts born of recognition and allegory. I will not be blamed again. I will not. From Out of the Garden by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Great.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh.
That was wonderful.
Thank you for the photograph.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, Jim Turner,
Yes,
we can't see. There you are.
yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I live in Silver Spring, Maryland, but I'm originally from Canada. I started photographing after I retired about 10 years ago. And I guess I've started to do what you might call fine art photography more recently. This image is from a project that Kevin and Amanda have heard a lot about. It's about memory. And each image is a diptych. One panel is a photographic positive and the other is a photographic negative. And they are related to one another and based on my memories. And what I've also found is that everybody who looks at these pictures sees something different. So I won't tell you what I see. And I asked Kevin to read Franklin's story.
Okay.
Or Franklin to read Franklin's story.
Quite confusing.
It is very confusing. You never know.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. The singing weaves in and out of the cane. The voice is keeping tempo with the ringing of the steel against the thick, grass-like stalks. The occasional flat percussive of bare feet against thick, black, wet soil. The sharp, slender leaves of the cane seeming to whir and vibrate with the deep chorus. The raw soprano of the women running up against the primal baritone of the men, colliding and melding like what the sugar in the cane will do later on in a sweet, beautiful pie or praline. Letty waits all year for these days, hard days, real hard days. But the singing seems to bring whatever there is of heaven down closer, the tops of the cane tickling something fine and special. She can't see it, only when she closes her eyes, still swinging the cane knife, the ringing of the steel just a bit higher than her voice. She sees the meaning of the song clear and real, refreshing and recharging the choral amulet for yet another year. From Louisiana Sugar by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the picture.
Yeah,
Lovely.
okay, we're ready to go on?
Yep.
Carlos. This is Carlos
Hey.
Alejandro.
Oh, wait, I gotta find my thing. There it is. Holy cow.
So who are you, Carlos?
Oh, right. Sorry, I got lost in my computer here trying to get all the pictures in the right places. I am Carlos Alejandro, also known as Trace Journals on Instagram. See Candace now, she knows who I am.
Oh, good.
I have a long storied past. I grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. I live in Delaware, in York, in Hockessin, Delaware now. I've been in 48 states. I've worked I've worked as a commercial photographer for, I don't know what, 36 or 37 years. And actually, I won't tell you any more about me. I'll tell you about this picture. This picture is from Salzburg, Austria. And it's taken from the top of the castle, which overlooks the city. Only this is the part that doesn't look over the city. It looks over the countryside. And I I waited until that guy was in the picture. So it was my Cartier-Bresson moment. And I just couldn't believe my luck because, you know, if you get to a fork in the road, take it. Well, this is like really confusing. Yeah, so I was actually there shooting for W.L. Gore at the time. And they were all talking to each other about business, and I was taking pictures off the side of the castle. So I will, thank you. I will read this. Let me see if I can. Here it is.
One other bit of information. I don't know if y'all remember us doing the Johnson City project with the gallery, where we had the portraits of the citizens of Johnson City. That was Carlos's project, and he really took some fantastic shots, some wonderful images.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've been doing community projects now for I don't know what, almost, I guess, 4 years, and I'm hoping to start another one soon in South Carolina in the Low Country, on Wadmalaw Island, of Black artisan farmers and some of the Gullah Geechee people. But you know, today I'm working on a kitchen.
Okay.
And that's reality. Okay, so the semi-reclusive retired celebrity architect Desmond Floyd was completely opposed to hard surface roads, driveways, walks, and freeways. Having suffered concrete and asphalt for most of his life, he made the decision to build his final residence, his retirement home, to be arrived at by gravel paths. Desmond preferred that his guests and others park at the boundary of his estate and walk a significant distance to his door. He chose a 15-acre property that had formerly been a hay. His guests would arrive in various stages of wear and exhaustion, in summer sweating, in winter frozen. He kept an artfully decorated English coach at his front entry, with an expertly lettered sign reading, "Out of order," attached to its door. The paths were well lit, swept in summer, free of snow in winter. Upon completion of the house, the Pembertons of Dover were the first guests, along with Sue and Whipper Steele of Chevy Chase a short time later. It was the second week in June. Desmond met his guests at the door with Dixie cups of cool water and an offer of face towels. Mrs. Pemberton asked to be taken to a chair. Mr. Pemberton sat and removed a stone from his loafer, requesting scotch. The Steeles, being younger, accepted the water and kissed Desmond on the cheek. However, after walking the short distance to the living room, Whipper Steele noticed a dull pain in his right Achilles. The walk had apparently aggravated an old rowing injury. And so it went over the first year and a half of Desmond's new home. When his sudden death aroused suspicion, there were plenty of suspects. From a disagreeable invitation by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so next we have Cathy Panebianco. I can't see you. I know you're there somewhere.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
We could be better, but we're still.
You could be
on.
better. I know, you could be better.
Yes, we could be, but
I'm
that's,
sorry to hear you have COVID.
We're still here.
yeah.
You're still standing, that's good.
Yeah.
I'm Cathy Panebianco. I'm from Jamestown, New York, which is south of Buffalo. And I'm a fine art photographer. I've been photographing for about 30 years. And this image from the project, I don't see it I don't see it yet, but I'll explain
I'm
what
sorry.
it is. That's okay. Here it is.
Brain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely understand. I had it too. Is called Inner Sanctuary, and it's from one of my series called Anemia Fabula. I'm a huge animal lover. You can see me right now. I have a kitten on my neck right now and a lab at my feet. But this series sort of explores our relationship with animals. And I'm just so thrilled. Kevin, I didn't know you were Franklin. This is the first I heard that. That's the coolest thing ever. So now it's like extra special that you wrote this. I think it's so cool.
Oh, good.
I know, that's so awesome. So I guess I'm going to read it.
If you'd like to,
Yeah,
we'd
we'd
love
love
it.
for you to read it.
Okay, I'd be happy to. She lost her dog to a coyote. It's one of those small, nervous, yapping little dogs. It bit her friend Sheila on the chin, requiring stitches. Sheila was cool about it. They laughed on the way to the emergency room, reminiscing about her getting her first period at summer camp, the counselor marking her with first blood on her forehead, cheeks, and chin. They danced around the cabin singing Louie Louie. The coyote first came at night after the first snow. All she could see was a faint silhouette. She turned on the overhead light, illuminating everything within 20 feet of the frosty window. The image of the animal was distorted, haloed by the cold. Its fur bristly, electric. It turned, looking directly at her. Strangely, she felt no fear or apprehension. They sat together for a few minutes, neither moving nor averting their gaze, until finally the animal rose, shook the fresh snow from its coat, lopping off towards the brush at the edge of the property, turning once to look back at the window. A strong wave of familiarity and melancholy came over her. She rushed to the window, not understanding why. She caught herself waving to the disappearing coyote, her breath coming quick and shallow. The turn, the backward glance upon leaving. Her father would do that each time he dropped her off. The image of him turning and her waving, it was the last, the only true thing she had of him. Try as she might, she could not be angry with the coyote. From The Leaving by Franklin Cincinnatus.
That was great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Franklin / Kevin. That was awesome.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. The image is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Next, Wayne Thomas. Are you
Hello.
there? Hey there. Wayne has nice, quiet cats too. If you can't hear, our cat is making a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's being a bad girl. So Wayne, tell us about yourself.
I'm live in Nashville, Tennessee. I was raised here, and I'm an attorney, but I've been taking photographs since the late 1970s. And mostly my photography is more like photojournalistic type photography. So I've just really started showing my work in the last few years. This photograph I took literally across the street from my house. It's within walking distance of my house. The house, that tree, I've passed it hundreds or thousands of times probably. So I finally decided to take a picture of it last year, I believe it was. Interestingly, it was probably a couple of months after I took this picture, they finally took the tree down. So it's not there anymore. So I got to it just in time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wayne has a book coming out soon, I think, right?
I do. I've got a book coming out through Daylight Books. It's called, the tentative title is Eulenspiegel in America. It's a story of a raft trip that some friends of mine and I took down the Missouri and Mississippi rivers in 1981. We built a raft in Kansas City and floated down to New Orleans. And
Wow.
that's I had my cameras with me, so book is gonna be coming out next year with the photographs, mostly my photographs, but also there were some other people with cameras on board. So we'll have a lot of pictures and some text as well.
Can't
So
wait
I'm
to see
getting,
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So you're gonna read your story, right?
I will make an attempt to read my story.
Okay,
I'm
great.
sure you'll do a wonderful job of it.
The neighbors bore a terrible grudge. The who knows how old tree beech stood at least 50 feet tall. Many of the neighbors and had childhood stories of the tree. They had climbed it, swung from it, lost kites in it, and on and on. The pastor's son proudly admitted that he had compromised his promised virginity one summer night in the dapple shade of the full moon. Its fate was a unanimously agreed upon neighborhood travesty. The tree belonged to an older couple that had adopted a boy shortly after losing their only son in the war in Vietnam. The young fellow was 11 years old when he was adopted. His only possessions were 2 pair of blue jeans, underwear, a couple of shirts, a Barlow knife, terribly scratched Africa Corps binoculars, and a tattered copy of Mark Twain's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. The boy grew up obsessed with the Mississippi River, one day traveling down it. He eschewed Led Zeppelin and Foghat for old records of New Orleans jazz bands. His Jewish pal Lenny explained to him the exclamation "next year" in Jerusalem. He began writing on the covers of his school books and notes and correspondence "next year in New Orleans." So upon the arrival of his 18th birthday, he enlisted 3 fellow travelers, and they, armed with bow saws and an unpredictable Craftsman chainsaw, removed every significant branch from the towering beech. They added the limbs to old barrels and collected styrofoam to make a raft. The girl in the group, an aspiring artist, created a banner that they hung from the largest branch of the much-loved tree that served as a mast. It read "New Orleans or Bust." And off they went, the lights of Kansas City receding, Huck and Jim and Bourbon Street on their minds, adventure and lots of poorly prepared catfish in their future. From Life on the Mississippi reprised by Franklin Cincinnatus.
All right.
It was very good. Thank you.
That was great.
Obviously, I knew a little bit about Wayne before.
Yeah.
I wrote
Slightly influenced. That's good. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So last but not least, we have Candace Biggerstaff. Where are you, Candace?
I think she left.
No, I'm here.
Yeah, she
She's
is.
there.
There I am. I'm hiding. I can't really see very well because I have the wrong glasses on, but hey.
Why don't you go to the
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Here
There we go.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's something.
If y'all don't follow Candace on Instagram, she's got this body of work of circuses. It's just wonderful. Really
Incredible.
nice
It
images.
really is incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name's Candace Biggerstaff. I was born in, where was I born? Hollywood. So born and raised in Hollywood when it was actually pretty nice. Okay. And I recently moved to Ashland, Oregon. But I've had this passion that was kind of in my family of shooting circuses, my father-in-law. So I started shooting circuses for him so he could be the, I don't know what you would call it, we're older, Dear Abby of the circuses. He could gossip with all the circus people and I would shoot all the pictures for him for programs.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
That's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
So I got pretty
Wow.
lucky there. Okay. So did he though. Okay. So, this is from a trip. My daughter and I went, we did a Indiegogo trip to, well, like, I don't know, we were North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and somewhere else. I'm not really sure. but we rented a motorhome and well, this is a different one. I'm sorry, I lost my head. This is we still rented a motorhome. We still did it Indiegogo, but this was in Redwood City, and we traveled. We didn't really travel. We just were with them. We had a motorhome that we rented, and we were with a Italian family circus in Redwood City in California for, gosh, like 12 days. So we got to see the ins and outs, and I just find it fascinating because I love clowns. I think that clowns are very similar to the reason I started taking photographs as a kid, maybe 12 or 11 or 12. So I could kind of hide, and I see the similarity in clowns. But it's the world that no one sees that I try to capture the most. Of course, being polite, I need to take pictures of their acts, okay? but I'm dying to go in the backyard and in their trailers and see how their life really is. And it's just like ours. How's that? It's great. Well, it's very similar, There's crazy families, there's great families, but it's pretty interesting to me.
Oh,
Wonderful.
So what did you used to work in the movie industry, right? In some fashion?
Yes, I did. I worked as a sound tech and a boom operator. Because I lived in San Fernando Valley where the studios were, and I really never thought I would do that, but the money was just kind of dangled right there, and it was like right around the corner. So I did that for many years. I became injured from that kind of work. So I got to devote myself to more photography. So that was a gift of being injured. I'm trying to see that as a gift, okay?
Right.
Yeah. But when I was younger, my husband, before we were married, he and I went and traveled with Circus Vargas for about 2 years because his dad was there. So we got to travel with them and see all sorts of crazy things. But we worked so much, I really didn't get to take many pictures. And really, to be honest, I kind of sucked as a photographer then. Okay. I later on, I put myself halfway through Brooks School of Photography and got a little bit of knowing what I was doing. But it's still quite a fascinating subject for me.
cool.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well, Kevin's going to read your story.
Oh, great. Thank you,
Or
Kevin.
Franklin is.
Franklin, excuse me.
Franklin is. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Baldy noticed a travel trailer away from the rest. The circus had come the week before. He needed to work and thought maybe there was someone with authority inside. He worked for his cousin the previous summer selling Mexican leather goods and spurs at rodeos. Baldy knocked on the door. A voice from the inside yelled, "It's open." He opened the door, stepped in, and before the occupants could say anything, he nervously asked if there was any work available, that he had experience working, selling things at rodeos. "We are not carnies, we are clowns," the grandmother said, smiling, her granddaughter dressed just as she was. "Yeah, we are good clowns too," said the young girl. "I'm sorry, said Baldy. No, it's okay," said the grandmother. "Show me your smile. Now, frown. Good. Sit down. We are having some stew. Would you like some?" Before he could answer, she was bringing him a very large pair of shoes and a bowl of stew with 2 slices of white bread on top. From Baltimore Joins the Circus by Franklin Cincinnatus.
Wow.
Great job, Kevin.
It's
really very, in a way, it's like his grandmother, the younger one, was there. Kind of, when I first read the story, I'm going, wow. and circus people do not like to be called carnies at all.
I just don't assume that. Yeah.
Well, not everyone does, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Well,
all right.
We've reached the end.
Well,
here.
we missed somebody.
We did. You want to stop the share? I can't imagine she'd still be hanging in there, but
What's over here? No, that's not it.
No, just stop the share.
You can tell we're not good at this. Okay, stop sharing.
Everybody's back.
No, she never showed up.
No, that's
Should,
okay.
should we read her story or wait?
No, she'll come to the next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So,
Well, thank you, everybody. This was.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I
Thank
hope
And
you.
you guys
feel better.
You guys' photos are so wonderful. It's such a treat. It's such an honor to be a part of all this. I love
Yes.
seeing you guys work.
Thank you.
Well,
I
well
I
said.
feel the same.
Definitely.
well put.
And now I know
Thanks.
who you are, Carlos.
I do. I love your work.
Thank you. I love yours too, as
Keeps
well.
on coming. And Cathy Panebianco, your pictures with the slides held up, that was unbelievably beautiful. That was
Thank
just
you.
such an incredible series of photographs and such a
Thank
great
you.
concept.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. That's sweet of you to say. I really enjoyed seeing everybody's work today. It was
Likewise.
inspiring.
It was great. It was really great.
Yeah.
Nice
Well,
way to share.
I'm proud and humbled. Thank y'all for allowing me to do this.
He was
Thank
pretty
you.
It was
nervous.
great, Kevin.
It's an honor.
Yeah, it's an honor.
Definitely an honor.
Yeah.
Kevin, you are endless, and I'll have what you're having on any day of the week.
Right? No kidding. Amanda, you have your hands full.
Yeah, that is for sure.
Okay,
Well, thank you
Alrighty.
so much for
Great.
being here.
and thanks for supporting the gallery. We
Absolutely.
greatly
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
Thank you.
All
Thank
good.
Thanks,
you.
guys.
For all you
Thanks.
do.
Real good,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.